Hello everyone, Physics here. Welcome to another tutorial. In this one we will be covering the bombing modes that we have in Falcon BMS. This tutorial is not intended to be an extensive explanation on all the technical aspects of these modes and their associated systems, but I believe that if you follow this tutorial, you will be able to use these modes effectively. In this tutorial we will be covering the following: Stores Management Systems SMS page, the SMS Air-to-Ground Gun page, Continuously Computed Release Point CCRP, Continuously Computed Impact Point CCIP, DTOS, DTOS, and Manual Bombing Modes. The SMS page shows an additional mode, Low Altitude Drone Delivery, LADD. However, from reading about the LADD in the BMS manual, it is my understanding that it isn't currently implemented in BMS, so I won't cover it. Let's get into it. SMS page. To go into the air-to-ground SMS page, you must first go to air-to-ground mode. By default, on your right MFD, the SMS page will be shown. We will cover this page on a clockwise order. First, you will see AG. This is your main air-to-ground bombing mode. If you press the OSB next to it, it'll take you to the air-to-ground gun page. We will cover that a little later. Press that same OSB to go back to the air-to-ground bombing mode. The following option shows CCRP. If you press the OSB next to it, it will display along the left side of the MFD the different bombing modes. Press the OSB next to the one that you want to use to select it. For now, we will remain with CCRP. Next, we have INV for inventory. Press the OSB next to it, and it will show what's currently loaded on each station of the aircraft, as well as the amount of gun ammunition remaining. The 5-1, meaning 510 rounds. Press INV again to go back. The next option is CNTL, or the control page access. Press the OSB next to it, and it will take you to the different profiles preloaded in the system. These are limited for selection considering the types of weapons loaded on the aircraft. For example, I only have Mark 82s loaded, so 3 of the profiles that have a BA burst altitude setting are currently irrelevant for me. These are used with cluster munitions. You can edit the settings of each profile by pressing the OSB next to it. The AD1 is the arming delay for the nose fuse. The AD2 is the arming delay for the tail fuse. Select the value that you wish by pressing the OSB next to each number. Once you are done, press Enter to apply the settings. If you want to correct your inputs if you made a mistake, press RCL. If you want to exit this page without performing any further changes, press RTN. The profile on the right hand side is for the LADD mode, and like I mentioned previously, to my knowledge, it isn't currently implemented in BMS. If I'm wrong, please let me know. The last option present is the release angle at which the weapons will be released in the DTOS mode. This can be edited in the exact same way as the arming delays. Following that, we have the weapon that is currently selected. If you have more than one type of air-to-ground munition loaded, press the OSB to cycle through them. I currently only have Mark 82s, so this will not change. The next option are the profiles. Pressing the USB next to this option will cycle through the profiles. Think of these as shortcuts that you can use if you have two possible attack types you might perform. The profiles allow you to have two different sets of bombing modes, as well as having two different sets of arming settings. Again, these are shortcuts that you can use without having to edit each field. The next three options should be taken into consideration together. The first one is the release signal. The next one is the release interval. After, we have the release pulse, ripple. The release signal allows you to change between a single or a pair of whatever is the value selected in the pulse setting. The release interval distance is how long between each pulse is released, while the weapon release button is being pressed. For example, if I select 3 pairs and the release distance of 300 feet, it will look like this. However, if instead I select 3 singles with the same release interval distance, it will look like this. To sum it up, this means that on the first example, I told the system I wanted to release 3 pairs of bombs, and they should impact 300 feet apart. On the second example, I told the system I wanted to release 3 singles with the same impact distance per bomb. The final option is the fuse setting. You can switch between nose, tail, or NSTL for both fuses. Use a nose fuse for detonation on contact, a tail fuse if you intend on penetrating a target prior to detonation. Using NSTL will cause a detonation when any of the fuses detect a contact. Additionally, if you select a bomb that has a drag-inducing device, like the Air or the Snake Eye variants, you will be able to select if you want these devices to deploy by cycling through the fuses. If you select the nose fuse, you will see LO, which means low drag. If you select either the tail or NSTL, you will see high, which means that the drag-inducing device will deploy. These types of bombs are used for increased safety for low-altitude types of deliveries. SMS air-to-ground gun page. Select the air-to-ground gun page. You will see gun displayed as well as STRF or strafe mode. You can still visit your inventory page if you wish from this page. On the right hand side, you will see 5-1 gun. This means the amount of rounds remaining. In this case, 510 rounds of M61A1 Vulcan 20mm cannon remaining in the aircraft. Finally, the training mode for the gun, which is not implemented. In the HUD, you will see the bullet track line. The pipper. To the sides of the pipper, you have the moving target indices, which is the estimate for targets moving perpendicular to you at roughly 30 knots. On the outside of the circle, you have the MRQs at the 12, 3, 6, and 9 o'clock positions. Check the BMS F-16 manual page 364 for a further elaboration on these cues. Maneuver the aircraft and place the pipper on the target you wish to shoot. Once you see the circle inside the bigger circle starting to decrease counterclockwise, this means you should be in range.
Altitude. Chaff, flare. Chaff, flare. Chaff, flare.
Pull the trigger while avoiding
Chaff,
any
flare.
abrupt movements on the stick. If you see low
Chaff,
displayed,
flare.
it is an advisory to warn you that you are getting to a low altitude, hopefully to avoid target fixation. If at any point you see an X flash on your HUD,
Chaff,
pull
flare.
away immediately as you run the
Flare.
risk of impacting the
Chaff,
ground
flare.
or being hit by
Chaff,
debris from the
flare.
ground.
Chaff, flare.
Continuously Computed Release Point, CCRP mode. Since most precision-guided munitions, like laser-guided bombs and JDAMs, are best employed along with this mode, it is most likely the one you will use more often. Go to air-to-ground mode. When you go to air-to-ground mode, CCRP is normally the mode selected by default. If it's not, click on the mode, select CCRP. Check all the settings for your attack, like the selected weapon, the release signal, the release interval, release pulse, the fuse settings, and the arming delays. Select the sensor point of interest, SPI, you wish to attack. This can either be a steer point, a point designated from the TGP, or a mark point from another source. This bombing mode is most often used on a level attack over the target. Maneuver the aircraft while trying to keep the azimuth steering line lined up with your flight path marker. When the caret enters the release angle scale, press and hold the weapon release button. Continue flying the aircraft in order to maintain the azimuth steering line along the flight path marker. Once the solution queue reaches the flight path marker, the weapons will be released. Continuously Computed Impact Point, CCIP mode. CCIP mode is a mode that is most often used while engaging targets that you acquire visually through the HUD and does not reference a SPI. It is also effective against moving targets with unguided munitions. Go to air-to-ground mode. Once in the SMS page, select CCIP. As with the previous mode, check all the settings for your attack. This mode is best employed when diving, so in this case I recommend a lower arming delay for the fuses. On the HUD you will see the bomb fall line from the flight path marker and the pipper. In situation where the weapon impact point falls below the aircraft's nose, you will see a line along the bomb fall line. If this is present, I suggest, when possible and safe, to increase the dive angle of your aircraft. Maneuver the aircraft in order to place the pipper on your intended target and then stabilize the aircraft.
Altitude. Altitude.
When the pipper is on the target, press and hold the weapon release button.
Chaff, flare, chaff, flare, chaff, flare, chaff, flare, chaff, flare.
DTOS DTOS mode. This mode allows for a quick visual acquisition of a target of opportunity or pop-up threat. Go to air-to-ground mode. On the SMS page, press the appropriate OSB to change bombing modes and select DTOS. Now reference your HUD. You will notice that on the flight path marker, there is now a square. That's the TD box. The TD box can be moved using the radar cursor keys. Once the TD box is over your intended target, press TMS forward on your stick. If you'd like to put the TD box back on the flight path marker, press TMS aft on the stick. Additionally, if you have a TGP loaded on the aircraft, you can use it to have a better visual understanding of the target area as you move the TD box around. After you've designated a target with the TD box, you can then make the TGP sensor of interest, or SOI, by pressing DMS aft on the stick. You can then use the TGP to refine your targeting or even point track a target. Keep in mind that if you want to go back to moving the TD box on the HUD, you have to press DMS forward on the stick to make the HUD as SOI, which is represented by the asterisk on the top left corner of the HUD. When you are happy with your targeting, proceed as if it was a CCRP attack, like it was demonstrated earlier. DTOS mode using the joint helmet mounted queuing system. DTOS mode also has a very useful feature which allows you, if you have a JHMCS equipped and operational, you can use it to pick out a target by looking at it. With your JHMCS operational, look outside of the aircraft and make it SOI by pressing and holding TMS forward for more than 1 second. You will see that the TD box is now slaved to the crosshair of your helmet-mounted display. Put the crosshair over the target area and then press TMS forward again. The TD box is now ground stabilized and, as before, you can move the TD box using the radar cursor keys. You can then go back to your cockpit and on one of your MFDs, bring up the TGP again, to refine your targeting, and then proceed with the normal attack run. Manual man mode. The last mode I will cover is the manual mode. This mode has no symbology and is the least accurate bombing mode. Since it is a legacy bombing mode, you want to have as steep of a dive as you can to increase accuracy. However, personally, if you have to resort to using this mode and none of the others are available, I'd say you have significant problems with your aircraft and should be focusing on returning to base rather than dropping bombs on anything. Go to air-to-ground mode. On the SMS page, press the OSB to select your bombing mode and then pick MAN. If you do find yourself using this mode, I would recommend lowering the arming delay on your bombs, as they will most likely be dropped using a dive technique. Additionally, if the weapons that you have equipped are either Snake Eyes or air versions of the Mark bombs, I would recommend enabling the drag-inducing devices on the bombs. Put the aircraft in a dive and point the nose right at the target you intend to hit. Be very mindful that there will be no low altitude cues, so you might end up fragging yourself or hitting the ground as you perform this maneuver.
Chaff, flare, chaff, flare, chaff. flare, chaff, flare, chaff.
Final points. When in air-to-ground mode, you can quickly cycle between CCRP, CCIP, and DTOS modes by hitting the nose wheel steering / missile step button on your stick. When attacking an extended target area, like for example a runway with BLU-107 Durandal anti-runway bombs, it is important to note that CCRP will define wherever the pipper or the TD box is as the initial point to start dropping the bombs. This is in contrast to CCIP, which defines the pipper as the middle point to drop bombs. The computer will try to put bombs prior to the pipper, on the pipper, and past the pipper. So adjust your point of aim according to the mode you wish to use. And there we have it. These are the modes that you should be familiar with, especially CCRP. I hope this tutorial was helpful. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one.